Hey everyone, this is American Priest, and this is a teaching on how to use a crystal ball. And as I start this teaching, it needs to be made clear that there are ways that I would not recommend going about using a crystal ball. Many of these came to popularity in the 19th century. In the Victorian era, as far as the spiritualism, Ouija boards, trances, and even as we see today, some of the drug-induced hallucinatory states, and really any way to achieve clairvoyance or to have visions where one is not completely in control, but has gone about inducing the visions in a way that they lose control and something has overpowered them. The worst possible, in my opinion, being possession, because the risk of possession, and one can certainly be possessed by good as well as bad spirits. In fact, possession is probably more common with neutral or good spirits than bad. The problem, though, is that one will subordinate one's will to a different being or entity, and the true magician or wizard is always wanting to stay in control of his own will for the purpose of maintaining an autonomy of spirit. So that having said, that's what I would recommend not doing in using a crystal ball. What I do recommend is a more gradual process of beginning to harness your own visionary powers. And before even using the crystal ball, I usually begin with a meditation, eyes closed in this particular meditation, breathing in and out, counting my breaths 1 to 100, and again with the eyes closed. And the purpose of keeping the eyes closed is often the inner world or the inner body or the soul or the psyche can be accessed a lot easier because it is not distracted by the outer physical world. And the second layer of reality, often called the Astral Plane or the middle or lower worlds in shamanic traditions, or simply other dimensions, as most visionary experience is in this second layer of reality, the first being the physical world, the third being the higher heavens, which is more reserved for saints or those that have perfected virtues and would probably not have a whole lot of use for crystal balls to begin with. But seeing that that is not most of us, and you opened this video for a reason, let's get into actually how you go about using it after you complete the introductory meditation. The important thing to remember about the introductory meditation is the visualization of the breath, not simply an awareness or a kinesthetic appreciation of the breath moving in and out through your nostrils down to your lungs throughout your body. That's important, but also visualizing the breath as a physical entity, as a spiritual entity. The breath can become a tangible thing that can actually be seen, and that's important in the introductory meditation, where you're trying to count to at least 100 breaths with your eyes closed, visualizing the breath as an actual image, as something you can see. Because the entire purpose of using a crystal ball is to be able to harness your third eye and harness your own energies and your own mental concentration to be able to see into the astral plane. And when I say astral plane, I mean a different time or a different space or both. A different time meaning something that happened 300 years ago, something that's going to happen 3 years in the future, and by a different space, I mean somewhere else going on now, which could be in a different time, or it could be something happening right now in the world with somebody in a different location. So it's simply a way to have a visual access point into the realm beyond time-space, but still anchored very much in what we call Earth. There seems to be little purpose to going outside of that. Now, after you've been able to better visualize the breath in your meditation, hopefully that will set your third eye, as we will call it, into more of an attunement where you can get into the right groove, because the crystal ball is just a tool to basically help you exercise a muscle. And the purpose is to strengthen that muscle, and to strengthen it so much that perhaps you wouldn't need the crystal ball even, or to strengthen it so much that it's just a natural boost, a big jump of momentum in your magical practice when you are able to strengthen the muscle of the third eye to be able to go into the astral plane at will. However, at first, when you start looking at the crystal ball after the meditation, look at it until you start to see images appear on it. And if you're not seeing images appear, I'd simply just kind of adjust your gaze or your depth perception or your just focus. Because what first has to happen is a similar thing that happens when you go to sleep at night and you start dreaming, and you see all these images in your dreams. And the temptation with many people is to see these deeper divine messages in dreams. And while that does happen, the vast majority of dreams are simply the thought reflexes of the subconscious, the mental recycling of material. And that is exactly what's going to happen when you begin to adjust your gaze with the crystal ball. There's simply going to be images that come and go. And that's good because it means you're getting closer. But certainly do not attach to those visions. If the first images that seem to pop into your mind looking at the crystal ball are of death or a violent plane crash or something of the sort, don't worry, you're not seeing into the future. That's just basically your subconscious mind just kind of clearing the air, so to speak. The second step would be to decide what you are going to see in the crystal ball, and to be practicing imagining an object. Perhaps it's a lamp or a tree or a forest or a place in nature you want to you like to go, or simply something you know very well, or somebody you know very well, and concentrate on them until you begin to see that image arise in the crystal ball. And that's a big step when you can go from those automatic images that appear outside of your control to actually starting to influence what you're going to see or not. And I say influence because completely controlling it is going to be very hard, if not impossible, at first. But to basically get to a second point where you can decide in general what you are going to start seeing. And the third step would be to decide what time or what space you are going to view and concentrate basically on that dimension. For instance, if I'm focusing on what happened in 1853 in France, in a small town in France that I know, and this is all just hypothetical, but if that's what I'm choosing, I basically focus on that time and place, and then I begin to see what appears. Now, I'm not going to be able to actually see anything that's true until I'm able to basically go through the second stage, which is basically deciding the exact object. And that second stage I talk about, where you go from having just subconscious flashes on the screen to being able to decide what you see or not. That's a mental exercise. That's not a sense of clairvoyance. And then the third step would be going beyond that to some level of clairvoyance, where you're focusing on what happened sometime in the past, what will happen sometime in the future, or what is happening now in a different part of the world. And so that's just a brief introduction, and I'm going to do a series on these, and you'll see below a link to get a crystal ball if you are so inclined to begin practicing. It's important to get one that's big enough. A lot of crystal balls you'll see sold in different places will be very tiny, or they may just not even be crystal balls at all. But to get a genuinely good crystal ball is often hard to find. But there's a link below where you can get one if you so choose. And I've enjoyed having the honor of talking to you, and blessings to all of you out there.